Hi everyone, welcome. This is Danielle and today I'm going to be showing you all how to make an Olson mask with a filter, and guess what? Another interesting feature. Crochet yarn ties. That's right, you can make ties for the mask that you create in just a few minutes through doing just a simple crochet chain stitch. And guess what? It's not only easier and faster to make, but it's also durable. As elastic is getting harder to come by, and as I've found, fabric ties can take up a lot more time, energy, and of course fabric to make. So today I'm going to go through everything you'll need in order to create an Olson mask with fabric ties. Let's get started. First, let's begin with what you'll need. For this project, you will need fabric. Please know that 1/2 yards can make around 2 to 3 of these masks. So I would recommend getting 1/2 yard to 1 yard if you would like to make several of these masks. Next, you'll need at least 1 yard of yarn for fabric ties. Then you will of course need a crochet needle. Any size will do. In this project, scissors are also needed. You will also need the Olson mask with filter pattern. I have included the link to this pattern below in the description. Lastly, you're going to need sewing pins, but also sewing clips work as well, whatever your preference is. Once you have all of that, you're good to go. The first step is to fold the fabric to where it creates enough space to fit the face portion of the mask, and then place each of the pattern pieces on the folded area. Once you have done that, pin each of the pattern pieces in place onto the folded fabric. Ta-da! Now that the sewing pieces are placed securely onto the fabric, it's now time to cut away the excess fabric. Continue to snip away at that extra fabric. Now it's time to cut out each of the individual pattern pieces. And here they all are, ready for us to work with. Let's start with the face piece. First, start by taking out all of the pins for the face piece. And after you have done that, turn the pieces wrong side out. You can do this by turning the bottom piece so that its right or printed side is facing you, and then by placing the upper piece on top of the bottom piece where its wrong or non-printed side is facing you. Next, we are going to pin the two pieces together by their curves. We are then going to sew where you've placed the pins, meaning just sew the curve together. Now onto the cheek piece. Let's remove the pins from this piece. After you have unpinned these pieces, separate the two fabric pieces from one another. So our overall goal is to fold the smaller side of each piece by about 1/4 inch to create a hemmed edge. I'll show you right now how we are going to do that. It's off to the ironing board, or you can finger press instead, whichever works best for you. Use an iron to press the smaller side of one of the pieces to about 1/4 inch. Now pin this newly pressed edge together. Repeat these two steps with the second piece. Sew the pressed edges on each of the pieces. Right now, I'm sewing each of the individual edges together. And as you can see, I've stitched that edge right up. Okay guys, now on to our last piece, the mouthpiece. Let's take out the pins from this piece. Then we are going to press the smaller and straight sides of each of the pieces to about 1/4 inch. As you can see now, I'm using the iron to make a seam on both sides. Now it's time to pin up the edge. Afterward, do the same for the second fabric piece. And as you can see, I'm just ironing it down. And pinning it up. Now that we have this completed, we are going to sew each of the pieces' newly created edges together. But just before we do that, put the two pieces together so that their wrong sides are facing outwards and place the pins at their curved side, and then sew the curves together. Now to the sewing machine! First, we are going to be sewing the curves together. A very important thing to remember is that this stitch will join the two fabric pieces together. And just keep on stitching. Second, we are going to sew the individual edges that are on each piece. Please remember that this is the portion that will not join the pieces together, but instead it will create a nice hem on both sides. And now doing the other side. So once you have finished this is what the mouthpiece should look like. Here's what all of your pieces should look like after they have been individually sewn. It's time to put them together and to make the mask. First, lay the face piece down to where its right or printed side is facing you, and lay the mouthpiece on top of it with its wrong or non-printed side facing you. Now we are going to pin the top and bottom of the face and mouth pieces together. Be sure to turn your work around and start pinning on the other side. Then match each of the cheek pieces with the corresponding side on the face piece. And then pin these pieces together. In the areas where the mouthpiece touches the cheek piece, make sure that the face piece is at the bottom, the mouthpiece is second, and the cheek piece is on top, and pin them together. Make sure that you have pinned all the way around the pieces so that they are all attached. Now that they are all pinned, it's time to sew them together. Once at your sewing machine, you are going to sew all the way around your mask to attach all of the pieces together. As I like to say, keep on stitching. Now that we have everything sewn together, it's time to do some trimming. Don't worry, it's easy. First, cut off a small portion of the sides of the mask. Remember, whenever you are trimming, please be careful not to cut the main threading. Next, we are going to make small cuts along the middle part of the mask for the curved sides. Be sure to make these cuts all the way around the fabric. Now, turn your work around and repeat this step on the other middle piece. Now turn your work to the front and trim the long sides or the cheek edges so that they match up with the shape of the mask. Once you have done that, you are good to go. See, I told you it was easy. Trim, trim, trim away. Now turn your work inside out so that it's on its right side. This is what your mask should look like now. Let's now take this over to the ironing board. Now this step is completely optional, but for me personally, I love the way my work comes out when I iron it, and when sewing, it makes it a lot easier for me. But again, please feel free to do what is best and the most convenient for you. Right now, I'm just ironing the front and the back of the mask so that it lays down more flat. And on the front side, I folded the mask and ironed each side. here I'm just getting the outside of the mask and also the edges as well. Now the really important part. On the front side, fold your mask and iron or finger press each side. These folded edges are going to serve as the spaces where we are going to insert our yarn ties. Do not pin them just yet. We still need to create the crochet tie. Let's start making it. So, as you can see, I have my handy dandy crochet needle. And don't forget that yarn too. So the first thing that we are going to do is make a slip knot. And then insert your crochet needle into the slip knot. Now do a single stitch. We are going to make around 200 to 230 chains. Keep on stitching. By the way, this is my first YouTube video. I'm really excited to be posting more content about sewing and potentially some other things that I can do, like producing music, as you may have heard some of the songs on this video. If you would like, please feel free to send me any suggestions about what you would like to see more of. I would be more than happy to hear your thoughts. Now that we have completed our chain, grab your slip knot and the long piece of yarn next to it and secure it with 2 simple knots. Then cut off the slip knot and the excess yarn. Next, we are going to create a knot to secure our work. This can be done by wrapping the end of the chain around your finger and bringing it inside of the first knot. Please make this knot 2 times. Turn your work around to the other side where the original stitch is and cut off the long excess piece of yarn and make the same security knot that we have made for the other side. Now that we have our tie complete, let's work on attaching them inside of the edges of our mask. Let me show you how that's done. First, place one side of the crochet yarn chain into one side of the folded edge of the mask. Then we are going to pin the edges together. Now repeat those steps for the other side of the mask. Let's sew each of those sides together. Remember, when sewing the edges together, make sure that you do not sew the yarn ties. Always keep them towards the corner of the edge and away from the needle. And voila! You have just made your new mask! Great work! Again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please feel free to leave a like or comment down below. If you would like to show your support for this channel and would like to see more great content, please subscribe and hit the bell notification button. Thank you so much!